All right, welcome everyone. We are here to learn from Eva Clark's scripts for healing. Eva has a full-time practice using hypnotherapy and NLP with chronic disease and disorders. She's done extensive work with multiple sclerosis. Additionally, Eva directs the nonprofit Mind-Based Healing, where she teaches hypnotherapists how to use their skills to effectively work with chronic disease. So let's welcome Eva, and I'm going to turn this over to Eva.
Right. So I'm going to share my screen so that we have a lot to cover in our time together. Yeah, when I saw, I was like, I'm going to pull this off in 60 minutes or 55 minutes. Let's see how we do. All right. So how to write a personalized healing script. When someone comes into your office and they come in with something that you've never worked with, many of us, what we do is we try to reach for a script, something, someone else has used to work with that thing. But sometimes there isn't a script for that particular thing. Additionally, we also know that if we use a generic script, it's not as powerful as a personalized script, because in a personalized script, we can use their words, we can really address their triggers and their fears, and we can use their motivators to help make the change. And that's far more powerful, right? And then sometimes they come in with something, you have a script, but then they come in again, and what do? So how do we make our own personalized scripts for whatever your client comes in with? Now, today we're going to focus on physical symptoms and chronic disease, but you can probably use this template for most any issue that your client comes in with. This is a great template. We're going to be using this outline. It's going to be a sort of an interview that will help us design a personalized script. So how do we start? There's 4 key pieces to design a really powerful script for physical symptoms or chronic disease. Mindset, and we'll go through each of these, slowly, because mindset is very important. We're not going to get rid of the disease. We're actually going to utilize the disease. I'll show you how we do that. We're going to make sure everything our script says is positive. No matter how over the top, we will not put anything negative. And because our clients are in hypnosis, that critical factor is very much reduced. So there's a lot we can get away with in a good way. And we're going to use their symptoms as triggers, kind of like what NLP will use, to move them towards health. Okay, so let's start with mindset, because mindset is key. When your client comes in, you need to be honing in on what they're saying and notice really what meaning they make of their disease, how they're thinking about it, talking about it, everything. If you think about it as everyone here has heard of placebo. You nod your head, yes. Have you heard of nocebo? The opposite of placebo. It's believing something will get worse. It's believing there's nothing they can do about it. There's a very famous story in psychoneuroimmunology. This was an Alan, a 35-year-old gentleman who returned from placement in an international medical aid agency in Nigeria. And he caught a cold, some sort of chill, 2 weeks after he returned to Britain. And he suffered a fever, a sore throat, and general malaise. But he was convinced that these symptoms were indications that he had contracted HIV in Nigeria. And he was freaked out. Every time he felt a symptom, he suffered any minor, limitation, anything, infection, it was like, oh, this is evidence that this is AIDS. I have full-blown AIDS. And he actually got worse and he got worse. He found himself too weak to work. He couldn't do his job. He only had the energy for the minimum, to eat and sleep, and that was it. 4 months of this, 4 months of thinking he has HIV, he was in such a poor state. He said, I even if anybody finds out, that maybe I got HIV in Nigeria, I need to find out. And so he went and got tested. He was negative. He did not have it. 3 weeks later, all symptoms were gone. This is the power. So if you think about, if your clients think that their disease is going to get worse, and every time they have a little pain on the right side or a little more of the back thing or whatever else is happening, and they think that is evidence that it is getting worse, they will actually move their body into that space. So it's very important that you look at those beliefs. Additionally, for example, the second example of Kelly, who here believes stress is really good for you? Who here believes that stress is not good for you? Especially too much stress. Okay, so Kelly McGonigal did a TED Talk, which is called Stress is Your Friend. And what she studied, she had spent 10 years telling people, oh my God, stress is so bad for you. Please do not, you have to do whatever you can. You can't get stressed. And then she says she feels like she has karma now because she did a study and she realized that people who believe that stress is exciting, that it's meeting the challenge, that when your heart starts pumping and you start sweating profusely, it's your body getting ready and that you are ready to go. Like right now, I can definitely feel my heart. And you think that is a good thing. Your arteries will actually expand so that it will pump oxygen into every member of your body. But if you think stress is bad for you, oh my God, I'm stressed. I shouldn't be stressed. I should be totally calm. I've got to be calm. If I'm not calm, I'll never get this done. The arteries will actually contract and there'll be barely any space. And that's actually can give you stroke and heart attacks and all sorts of other things. So imagine believing that stress is good for you. Imagine actually believing that disease is good for you. That's a whole different mindset. And that will actually help lead you towards health, much more so than thinking this is a problem. Another example I wanted to give, Ellen Langer. Ellen Langer did this really famous study called the counterclockwise study. I don't want to talk about that one. I actually want to talk about, and if you get on YouTube and put Ellen Langer and put counterclockwise study, at the end of the video, she'll talk about, and I just love this one, she'll talk about this little experiment they did with chambermaids in a hotel. And she said they had this hypothesis that chambermaids that are doing these physical things all day long should be probably healthier than most of us, especially people that are in offices. So they went and they studied these chambermaids, and turns out they have just as much issues with diabetes, overweight, high blood pressure, and they also complain about not going to the gym. They don't have enough time. And so she thought, this is crazy. They're doing physical exercise all day long. So they set up an experiment. They had half the chambermaids just keep doing what they're doing for a month. And the other half, they did a long presentation with them. And they showed them that the work they do as chambermaids is equivalent to be in the gym 8 hours. They said, look, every time you make a bed, that's 70 calories. Every time you get down to pick up something in the room, that's stretching your muscles. That's building the muscles. Every time you have to push that cart, that's all this here in your abdomen. You are in the gym 8 hours a day. 1 month later, they tested again the chambermaids, and those that were given that presentation and were told that while you do your everyday work, know that this is like going to the gym. They lost weight, They improve their abdomen, and butt, the ratio. They lowered their blood pressure, and they improved their health in 1 month, because the meaning they made of their work now was that it was healthy. That is the power of mindset. So let's do a few examples, because when you're writing your script, you're going to be listening to what's the mindset. And in your script, you're going to change that mindset towards positive, beneficial, and healthy. So for example, most of my clients that come in think the disease is the worst thing that could happen to them, and they are a victim of it. In your script, you're going to tell them that the disease is the best thing that happened to them. They think being sick is a failure. This is especially true for my MS clients. Having MS is a failure. You're going to tell them in the script, this is an example only, that disease is an opportunity to stop just getting by, and that it's actually a success. It helps you live a truly successful life to have disease. Whoa, that's very different. Remember, your clients are in trance, so the critical factor is not present or very little. So this will actually make sense to them when they're in trance. It's like, I love, I'll write the script out with them, as we see all the negatives, then I'll spend some moments writing all these positives, and I'll review it with them to make sure there isn't any triggering words to them. But when I review to them while they're still totally awake, they're like, there's no way I'm good. That is no. And then afterwards, when they get out of trance, they're like, that made so much sense. Oh my God, that's perfect. And so really stretch when you do these scripts. They believe that because they have a disease, they're unhealthy. But you're going to tell them that you are now entering the realm of true health. You cannot learn true health, nutrition and sleep, learning to say no, learning the importance of rest, unless you've had a disease. They are now healthy, really healthy. They believe they have limitations now, especially when something is chronic. And you want to change that to actually say, limitations is a way to focus towards your dreams. Focus to being your authentic self rather than trying to be everything for everyone. They come to you and they just want to get rid of it. It's something, just get rid of it. And you want to tell them to embrace it as a gift. It is their greatest teacher, and it will be something they will be grateful for experiencing. This happens a lot with people with cancer. If you've ever read any research or any studies on spontaneous remission, many times they will talk about the cancer as something very meaningful, and ultimately being very grateful for where it has taken them. So put that in the script from the start. Bring that mindfulness and that mindset. They believe it's hopeless, especially when they have a disease that there is no cure, right? And there's a large, well, of course, that's why it's called chronic. Chronic just means, biomedical engineering, biomedicine, sorry, hasn't found a cure yet, right? And so they believe this is hopeless. There's nothing I can do. There's no cure. I'm going to have to live with it. And you want to say, oh my gosh, this is so hopeful, because here's a chance to really make changes in your life and to live aligned with your true values and priorities. It's like, here is a motivator to align yourself more, not to just get by. Of course, they want their lives back, but you have to remember something there. Where they come from is where their disease was generated. So taking them back there, just getting rid of the disease, is doing them no favors. You're putting them right back in their situations. So again, you wanted to say that this is an opportunity not to go back to that life. This is an opportunity to move into a life that is truly thriving, not just getting by. Right? So every meaning they have that's negative, and that disease is bad, or is that the problem, you're going to make it good. Letting them know that disease is actually solving something. Because every problem, including disease, physical symptoms, contains within itself the seeds of its own solution. How? Disease actually is a balancer. It is how the subconscious, how the body-mind balances us. This can sound woo-woo. It's actually very quantum physics. If there's too many negative ions, the body needs to provide positive ions to balance you. If there's too much doing, the body will provide something to slow you down. If there's too much giving, the body will provide something for you to learn to receive. True balance is not do. True balance is not being a goody two shoes. I had actually this week, I had a client, she came in and she's like, I want to be healthy when it comes, balanced when it comes to my health. I want every day to do my exercise, to eat well, to sleep well, to never have wine. I want to do it all really well, so I'm balanced. And I showed her this wonderful little, yin yang symbol. And I said, you've just described me this. Being good, doing everything perfect is actually not healthy. Healthy is a balance of everything, including a balance of over obsessing about our health, right? Because that creates the bad stress, right? So remember, the person is unhealthy not because of the disease. It's unhealthy because of what was happening in their lives. The disease is only the expression of that. The disease is not the problem. I'll actually show you how it's actually pointing towards the solution. The best thing is to observe the disease and notice, what does it allow them to start doing, to stop doing, or to modify? If they come in and they had this disease for 20 years, look at the beginning, because right now it's modified everything in their lives. Look at the beginning. What was it doing then? So let's do some examples. This is just so that you start seeing how you're going to be doing this script. What is the mindset of the practitioner as you do this? We're going to look at, what do these three chronic, now cancer is going to be considered chronic soon. They're going to call it chronic. I hate that. But anyway, what do these disease, what are they doing for the client? If you think about cancer and cancer cells are these little cells that are like, they're narcissist. It's all about me. Me. They come into an area and they overpopulate it. They take all the nutrients in that area. They want it all. And if they go crazy, they'll take over everything. That's what the disease is telling them about. And so you need to lead them towards a balance. The disease is trying to balance them. You need to take the job away from that. So you need to teach them, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. People with cancer tend to be extremely nice and giving and always there for everyone and always the sacrifice. So you want them to learn to put the oxygen mask on first. You're going to put in the script, caring starts with you, not with everyone else. And that it's actually attractive to have your own opinions and to share them and to follow them. I had a client with prostate cancer. He had never decided on what movie his family's going to watch, ever. He was like, oh, it's okay, whatever you want to watch, honey. Let them have an opinion. Tell them it's okay. It's actually attractive. And it's important that they care about their needs, right? And they prioritize them. When it comes to asthma, what is asthma doing? Right? Think about it. What is asthma doing? Yes. They can't take in any breath. It's like they can't take anything else from life. They just can't take it in. It feels smothering. It's like, no, I can't breathe. Right? So you want to use that. You only take in what is important to you and you leave out what is not yours to deal with. These are people that take in everything, especially, for example, a mother that's very smothering. That's very, I had a client with asthma and her mother was, so upset that she was going to college and she had so much conflict with that. Right. And it's like, no, that's your mom's issue. That's not your issue. Your issue is to go to college, is to start living your adult life. Right. And so you're telling him in the script, you are responsible for your feelings and you let others be responsible for them. So you don't take in those things. Right. You love simplifying your life. If it's about taking things in, no, let's simplify. Don't take in so much. Right. So that you can handle things easily and independently. In multiple sclerosis, for example, there's a sensation many times that there's 30-pound bags on their feet. And it makes it really hard for them to move fast and to do. These are people that do 110% always, right? It makes it hard for them to multitask. If they try, it's like their heads just go foggy. They can't. And it makes them rest. They get what's called the MS sleeps. It's like all of a sudden Saturdays, they're out. They can't do anything. If you think about multiple sclerosis, their myelin is damaged. So it's like they can't immediately respond. You ask them for something, they can't just, okay, let me just go do that. They're like, It takes them, they have to think about it and really focus before they respond. So seeing that, your scripts are going to say things like, you work slowly and with intent, right? 30-pound bags are not about them going fast and continue to go even faster. You do one task at a time and in the flow, calmly. Efficiency is created through right action, not all action. They're trying to do it all. Einstein loved long naps and strolls in the park. They complemented his work brilliantly. It does for you too. As you do this interview, you'll notice that people with multiple sclerosis, before they got it, they were doing 14-hour days. That was their normal day, right? And so you're inviting them that work is done best when it's playful, right? You let go of controlling everything and everyone. If they can't control their bladder, think about it. They can't control the most mundane, like the first thing we learned to control as a kid. There's a lot of over controlling. And so the body's saying, let go of control. And so you're telling them, you let go of controlling everything and everyone. And instead, you just control your needs and your desires and meet them well. And the myelin, right? You pause before responding instead of there they are doing the next thing. You pause and you're mindful of each decision you take. And this leads you towards your needs and your desires. The third thing to be mindful, the mindset of the practitioner as you write your scripts, is you want to make sure everything is positive in the script. Remember, there's the critical factors down so you can really go all out. I'm really insisting on this because right at the beginning of COVID, someone very, very sweet sent a whole bunch of us this great little script for COVID. It was supposed to help us, get used to putting your mask and washing your hands and all this. But in the recording, which I listened to a couple times, the recording kept saying, do not touch your face. Do not touch your face. I couldn't stop touching my face. Because when you say do not touch your face, I was, it's like afterwards for the next 2 days, I couldn't stop. And I was like, oh my God, I can't listen to this anymore. So please make sure everything is uberly positive. So if they're saying this is going to get worse, you're saying this is getting better and better. If they're saying this is a failure, you're saying this is a road to success. If they're saying this is the worst that could have happened, this is the best thing ever. Just giving you some things. A lot of my clients will talk about, oh, this is the perfect storm. And you can say, oh, this is like the phoenix coming out of the flames. You know, it's a new birth, a new life, positive, uber positive. I'm stuck. That's a big one, right? You are in the flow. I'm ashamed. You are proud. When my hands tingle, I start panicking. When my IBS starts giving me these little whatever, I start thinking. When your hands awaken, you are excited. When your stomach is moving, you know it's doing its job, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, you're actually going to use their symptoms to move them towards health. Now, this one's a strange one. You're like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to talk about negative, but their symptoms are negative. It's like, no, make their symptoms positive. Use their symptoms as a great trigger, because if you don't address the symptoms, if you don't address the elephant in the room, after they've listened to the recording, if they start getting that headache or they start feeling a twinge in their back, they're going to automatically say, oh my God, this doesn't work. The hypnosis didn't work. So you want to put and embed in your script, every time you feel that twinge, every time you feel that pain in your lower back, you will remember, and you move them towards health. You will remember to say no, that you don't want to do, no to what you don't want to do and yes to what you desire. This actually comes from a client who, her lower back, she started having pain, and she would talk about, well, 20 years ago, it started, I was helping a friend move move from house to house. And she was actually, as we talked about it, she was actually very resentful, because she said all her neighbors have always asked her for help, but no one ever offers her help, right? And so you tie in the solution, what the body's trying to do for them, with the symptom. And the body would be like, yay, because that's what it wants. So actually, if they end up having a healing crisis and have a little more pain for a few days, you are pumping in all the positive solutions and moving them towards health to move them out of that symptom. So it's like with MS, every time you feel the heaviness in the legs, remember it's about 110%, you pause, you reflect, and you course correct. What do you really want to do? So let's do the script. Now that we have those, what we're doing, what our mindset's going to be as we write our script. A little caveat, I'm not the author of this outline. I've actually seen this outline really short and sweet in several trainings and in a book. I saw it in, trying to think of the names, Ron Esslinger on Stop Pain Through Hypnosis. And Tim Zimmerman also did this script, but both of them just kind of, it was like, oh, and you can also do this. But what I want to show you is this script is so powerful when done and when really utilized that you can really make some significant changes. This is a great script to start in the first session with the client, because you'll learn a lot about what's really happening, and your client will notice changes and they'll come back to do the deeper work. Also a caveat, this is a super cute PowerPoint. I don't know how to make super cute PowerPoints. If you guys ever want to know how to make, or at least have the template, slidescarnival.com has super cute free templates. I, of course, filled it out, but there's a lot there. It's really great. Okay, so let's start with our script. The script, as I said before, it's like a detailed interview. We want to understand the symptoms from every angle. We're going to be asking them about the physical, about the mental, what they think about it, what they feel about it. We're going to get the history, what was happening when it first started, what was happening right before, what their meaning is. We're going to find out how it's useful. Remember, the disease is making them stop something, start something, or change something. It could be called secondary gain as well, but it's like, we want to see, what is it allowing them to do, or what is it keeping them from doing? Especially at the beginning. They, of course, keep insisting. The disease keeps cutting things off for them, right? And it just makes it harder and harder and harder. Like all great scripts, we want to use powerful metaphoric imagery. Any guided meditations, you know, that imagery of things moving into place. We're actually going to work with them on that one. And then, as NLP would always say, future pace, future pace, future pace. All right, so we're going to start. Before we start, if you have any questions, I'm actually going to stop this just for a moment, because I'm going to link the file you guys received. Something happened when I was doing it, and so there's a couple errors. There's actually missing a piece, and I have one of a full script already written out, so you can see how we're going to work through it. Okay, so while I grab those, if anyone has any questions just about this, what we've talked about, this is more the mindset of how we're going to build our script and what we're searching and looking for.
Bridget had a question earlier. She said, could it also be that authority figures in their white coats telling them things has more impact?
It does. It has a lot of impact. It can be positive and it can be negative. So I will actually tell you my own experience. As you know, as Catherine said, I work a lot with multiple sclerosis. I actually have better outcomes with people who have not been diagnosed, that they have symptoms, but the doctors haven't been able to say it is MS. So it's all a mystery. I've had no problems with those. I have much more problems with really making some significant changes, with really getting rid of it all, if they've been diagnosed. Because there's so much belief, you know, and their doctor has told them it's only going to get worse, this is chronic, et cetera, all that's going to have influence. So you need, you know, you're working with that. One thing I actually also do is I will work with them on the day of the diagnosis, you know, as a trauma process, and find out what was said and what do we need to change about that. It's kind of like regression, but you're regressing to the day of the diagnosis to change the nocebos that they received. So I just put on the chat the healing script blank corrected, sorry about that. And the healing script as with a demonstration that we'll review, we'll go into details with. So you can see how to utilize the script to write a script. Okay. There's no other questions. We'll get in. We'll get into the script. All right, let me share my screen again, if I can. All right, as you're doing the script, you're going to start not every sentence and you switch them. You're actually going to interview them using the questions in the script, and you're going to write it all out. You know, you're not going to be writing it, you know, on computer. Usually you're just, you know, in my office, I'm just scribbling away and I'm scribbling and you know, my page is full, right? And then when you've got to the end, you'll actually start seeing patterns and what's going on there, and you'll get quite a few inklings. And then you will go and you will invite them to have a little water or some tea or go to the bathroom, and you'll start writing. It's usually maybe 10 minutes, just kind of looking at things, and then you'll review with them, make sure nothing jumps out at them like, no, or that can't work, or whatever it is, or a word that's triggering. I actually worked with someone with high blood pressure, and I was like, oh, I have a script for that. You know, that was a long time ago. And all the scripts of high blood pressure, if you've ever looked at them, they're all about water. And she was like, oh, I hate water. And it's just like, all right, let's do a personalized script. This is perfect, right? All right, so our client comes in with knee pain. A lot of times, most of us have also learned that you can take pain and you can turn it around. You can, you can throw it out the room. You can disassociate from it. You can swish it. Let's go into it and see what we can do. So you're asking your client first, what is their physical experience of their knee pain? And this client answers, it's like a hard rubber jammed between my kneecap and my upper leg. It hurts when I move. Sometimes it isn't so hard, but it's still there, right? What would happen if it progressed, right? You're trying to see, where would this take this client? If it continues to give me problems, it wouldn't just affect my driving. It actually give me problems with a lot of everyday things, right? So you're like, okay, something about driving here. And if I continues, then I'd have to get surgery. And then, I couldn't work. I'd have to rest. Interesting. Okay, you keep that in there. What makes it better? If I don't drive over the hill, write their words, because you're going to use a lot of this stuff. What makes it worse, right? If I drive over the hill a lot. Okay, this is interesting. That's why it's good just to first start with these questions until you get to the end and you'll understand. Ask them about their mental experience. What are their thoughts regarding the knee pain? This client answers that I'll need to change my car. It's too big for me. I love this car. It's great for camping, but not for commuting. I haven't camped forever, she says. I can't keep driving to San Jose to my office there. I'm going to have to stay on this side of the hill. That's her thoughts about the knee thing. She also, I said, what is your worst thoughts about this knee problem? Well, I don't do any exercise. I'm too busy building my practice, so my legs are weak. That's her worst thought, that my legs are weak because I don't do exercise. And the worst is that it's just going to always ache. And then I'll be one of those people that works too hard and complains about body aches all the time. It's giving you some really good hints. You want to ask them about their emotional experience. What do they feel when it's happening, right? Or when there's a flare-up? I feel I can't. I feel like I need to quit trying so hard. I feel like I've stretched myself too thin, like I'm focusing on too many avenues. Ask them, is there an emotion that brings on the symptoms? In this case, there isn't. But in many cases, especially autoimmune disorders, certain emotions will actually rev it up, get the inflammation going more. So you want to find out what those are. And even when do those come up, right? Because those will give you really good information. Again, this is going to give you really good information to write this script and tons of information for any following script, any following sessions with them. History. When did it start? What was going on in your life when you were diagnosed, right? What was going on in your life even 12 months before you started having that knee problem? And this client answers, she says, I had expanded my small practice. I opened an office over the hill and then another one down south. I actually had 3 different offices in 3 different cities, but actually only a client or 2 in these other cities. And she mentions, but again, you're writing all these things down because those little Freudian slips are perfect, right? And she goes, it's crazy. She's like, I used to drive, I did a 100-mile trip and I had no problems. And yet here I am, I'm commuting up this windy, scary Highway 17, and it's really messing my knee up. Something's happening there. It's pointing to something. You're asking them about the benefits, the secondary gain, but think about, what is this allowing them to do more of, to do less of, or to change? And she says, it's making me focus more on building my local practice and less interest in growing the other offices. Is that a bad thing? Right? It seems like so much time is wasted in the car. It's all about the car, especially for only a client or 2. So she goes up to San Jose 45 minutes, has a client, and then down San Jose 45 minutes, or she hits the afternoon traffic, and it can be even longer for one client. I thought it was important to be in San Jose It's the biggest city in this area, since it's much bigger, but this makes it not worth it. So we talked about healing imagery. What do you imagine is happening in your body, right? In your knee. If you could, like, draw it or kind of describe it metaphorically, what do you think is happening there? Right? Because this is going to help you make those do the imagery for your script. And this client says, I feel everything is wearing out and is stressed out. Like my joints are not being cared for and they're dry and they're cracking. And then you want to future pace with them, right? What will you be doing differently? And this is something that you actually want to work with a little bit with them, and then you're going to really elaborate. Because after that interview, I'm already getting some really good ideas of what's really happening and what their knee is trying to do for them, and thinking about, things I have to switch. So I'm looking at it with them and thinking, all right, let's see, it's about the car, it's about an attitude towards the car and working. And so the future pacing, I say, I will be saying in the script, you spring into your car. You're excited to go on the next adventure. I relate the car to an adventure, not to commuting, because that's what she had bought it for originally. You have been going on a run a few times a week because they feel like they're not exercising. And she, as you talk to her, she's like, yeah, I used to run. I'm not running anymore. So you're running a few times a week. You love to take a walk during lunch to move your body and get some air and sun. You love where you live and you love working where you live. You're pulling her into local. The body's not wanting to do all this stuff, right? Your legs are strong and you love going on adventures on the weekends. On weekdays, you enjoy going to your local office. Your schedule is full of interesting clients locally and on video. At work, it's all at your fingertips and close by. It's not these long commutes. While on the weekends, you go on long adventures exploring the beauty of the West Coast. Driving is an adventure, walking is a way of life. That's the future pace. If you look at verbatim, each section, the physical experience, we're going to change. Remember, she talked about dry joints. She also talked about like something jammed in the knee. Your knees are well oiled. Now, this is the script. If you guys want to actually even close your eyes, you can hear. I will actually read it verbatim. It's like, I won't even say, okay, I'm going to put the emotions first and then the physical last, and then I'm going to sit the. At that moment, after I've just reviewed it with them, just skim through it, I will put them in trance and start telling them this whole thing verbatim as I've written it down. So if you guys want to just listen to it, you will see how things are linked. And as you all probably have experienced in trance, there's a logic, illogic, and it all seems to work out. So I will get the induction, and then I will read to them. Your knees are well-oiled machines. The joints roll smoothly. The kneecap glides easily. You love movement. More and more you feel good in your body. You take every opportunity to stroll around and pop into your car whenever you need. Driving is an adventure. Walking is a way of life. You love your car. It's a camper in disguise. You use it for adventures to explore the beautiful mountains. It's just right for travel. Trips to San Jose are only an opportunity to warm up those well-oiled engines to take off on the weekends. You love exercising now. You take opportunities in the week to warm up your legs, to walk, to move the body. Your body feels like a well-oiled, well-maintained machine. Your legs are strong. Life flows easily. You move from one task to another seamlessly. And because you are moving in the flow, your business is growing. Life is an adventure. Your car is a traveling machine. you find you have more and more clients in town, and it becomes easy to focus on them. Every time you feel the knee pain, you remember to focus on your local practice, because driving is an adventure, walking is a way of life. Everything is well oiled, like a well-oiled machine. Oil is splattering everywhere. Everything is running so smoothly. See the pistons as they move up and down in rhythms. Hear the gears moving slowly and smoothly. Everything is so well oiled and taken care of, so strong. You spring into your car, excited to go on your next adventure. You have been going on a run a few times a week. You love to take a walk during lunch to move your body and get some air and sun. You love where you live, and you love working where you live. Your legs are strong, and you love going on adventures on the weekends. On weekdays, you enjoy going to your local office. Your schedule is full of interesting clients locally and on video. At work, it's all at your fingertips and close by, while the weekends are long adventures exploring the beauty of the West Coast. Driving is an adventure. Walking is a way of life. So I have used, and I might actually repeat it more than once. Every time you feel your knee pain, you'll remember throughout. Repetition creates permanence, right? So you can use this with anything. I use something very typical that someone might come in with, but you can use this with arthritis, with heart disease, with high blood pressure. I've used this with any sort of physical symptom, any sort of chronic disease. Sometimes a client will come in and they tell me a disease, I don't know what it is. And I need to, I ask them, what is it? To get an understanding, what is it doing in the body? And then we start doing that interview. Any questions? I'm just going to bring the, just so that we can kind of review.
There's one question from Diane. Whoops, where'd it go? Wait a minute.
Yeah, there.
From Diane Brooks. Might it be better to state anytime you feel knee pain as opposed to every time? Or is that the same, really?
That's actually a great suggestion, because that way it doesn't assume that's ever going to happen. Anytime. Perfect. That's even more powerful.
You can also, if you have a question, and you, rather than typing it in the box, which honestly, it's a little hard for me to read, a little tiny print, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How about this can be used for eating disorders, right? I mean, pretty much the same.
Totally. And weight loss. Yeah, you can probably get quite a bit of information, especially if they said, oh my gosh, I've gained 15 pounds in the last blah, blah, blah. And you start asking them all those pieces, and you ask about that history, then you can find out what was happening, that they ended up using food to solve the problem. Yeah.
Are there other scripts for other ailments available that you've used in the past that we can download, or?
So this script I use for any ailment.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the many tools I use to work with chronic disease. This one's the one I will use, and I train my clients, my students, and this is usually the first or the second script we use, or second tool we use. Then the next tools we do is we actually, rather than us assuming what the knee problem is doing, we got a pretty good inkling, right? But rather than assuming, then we will actually go in and speak to the knee pain in trance and ask directly. When did it come in? What do you want for the client? What do you want more for? You know, what are you doing for them? What do they need to know about you? What do you want them to change? What's your opinion about her offices? And you can get all that information directly from the disease, and then it gives you more detail. I find that session, it's better to first train your clients to get into hypnosis, rather than in the first session try to actually have a dialogue with them in hypnosis, because they're too busy thinking, am I doing this right? You know, so if you do this in the first session and then they take this home and listen to it for the next 2 weeks, they become familiar with you. And so they come back going, oh, I know how to do this. Okay, we're doing hypnosis again. Oh yeah, I like that. You know, they're really looking forward to it. Their subconscious is like, oh, I like Eva, you know, or oh, I like, you know, Christy. She does this thing, makes me feel good. You know, and so they perfectly get into hypnosis, and you tell them, you know, the next session, hey, in this session, I'm going to ask you questions, just allow answers to come. You're going to feel like you're making it up, and that's totally fine. You know, there's a big nugget in there. We're just going to let it happen. And so then you can do more experimental hypnosis and regressions and things.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. You also want to talk to the inner obstacle to healing. You know, not just talk to the disease, but talk to what's keeping it there. Because that's, again, another angle.
I have a question. Is that okay?
Yes.
Like with cancer, say you don't, like a lot of scripts I've seen is about like shrinking the tumor, but you're not doing any of that. You don't seem to be doing any of that, shrinking the tumor for cancer. You do it in a different way.
Tracking the what? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, it kind of goes in and out. Tracking?
No, shrinking the tumor.
So for example, in the part which is the healing imagery,
Okay.
when you talk to her and say, what do you believe is happening? And they say, oh, I believe that this tumor is getting bigger and it's taking over everything, you know, and you're like, okay, so let's envision that thing gets, you know, sucked in and sucked in and sucked in, or it starts shrinking or it starts melting. And so you would be adding that, but that would be a seventh of your script, one part of your script, very good part. But it's such an opportunity to do so much. And the subconscious and the body mind will be more receptive to changing the disease if the client is changing the reasons the disease is there. If you only focus on changing the disease, only focus on getting rid of the pain, that's great, but they'll come back to you with something else. I've had that. When I first started, I learned, you know, the technique of getting rid of allergies. I had a client with amazing allergies. We got rid of it. And like 2 years later, he had the worst relationship ever. And we started working on that. And then all of a sudden he had a chronic disease too. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. It's all regarding the same thing. Okay, stop. You know, and that's when I had the big learning. You want to work on why it's there. Don't blame the disease, or the disease is not the only problem.
Eva,
Yeah.
I have 3 very simple questions for you that you'll have the answer for quickly. You'd mentioned something that you're giving them to listen to take home.
Yes.
Before you do this. Is that like a trance or a meditation, something just to get them used to you?
This will be what they take home. So in the first session, I'll use this as my interview with them. Instead of what's wrong, I have a knee problem, I've had it for 6 months. Okay, and how does it feel? You're actually going to go, okay, let's explore this. And you can use this as your way of interviewing them and of creating that first recording you'll send them away with.
So that would probably answer my question of, are you writing the script on site directly after your interview?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you use this? It feels a lot to me like it's like an affirmation script, something that I usually give a little bit deeper in after I've taken care of some layers of the onion, or when I'm ready for the affirmation script. Would you feel like this would be something that could wait and be combined with the affirmation script, or it's better to, this is better for like, this is like the work, like this is like the important piece. Does that make sense?
So what would you be doing before you do this?
Finding out if this is a priority for them, or if we need to do some other work to clear some other fixations that may be creating some of the emotions that's dumping in this negative energy that's creating the problem. So yeah, sure, you could do this and then use part of it when you go in and do the affirmation script.
I mean,
So
this gives you a lot of information that you can use and refer back to in a lot of sessions. If you look at the history, if she says something very traumatic, you're writing it down and go, okay, I need to do a trauma process, right? If she talks about emotions and all this anxiety, all right, we're going to have to do some anxiety things, right? This is the case that the client came in and her priority is getting rid of knee pain.
right, or whatever other pain, like the priority is the pain.
Is the pain, is the arthritis, is the fear I'm going to have another heart attack, is the multiple sclerosis, is the shaking hands,
Okay.
is the Parkinson's, etc. And so you're like, ooh, okay, let's see, how do I start? This is a great way to start because it's going to give you and the client, if you guys take this and do it on yourself with anything that's happening, you can get a lot of insights of what's going on.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to build it for myself. Thank you.
Yeah, because this was me. And I wrote this down as an example for this presentation. And I wrote it down yesterday. I was like, okay, what should I do? Should I try to get someone to be the client? I go, it might take too long. We only have so much time. And so I go, oh, okay, let me just think about that knee problem I had a long time ago. Okay, let me write it down. So I used it. And when I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was so obvious. I changed cars. I continued to commute for about 4 more months, almost 6 more months with a new car, up to San Jose every day, down to Monterey every day. And then I couldn't stand the car and I ended up changing the car and I finally just had to stop going. And now, if you see in this thing, I have 3 websites, but only 1 office. Everything's at my fingertips. But I would have taken so much less time and so much less suffering if I would have done this or someone had done this and I would have realized, oh, I think I know what my knee is talking about. It wouldn't have taken me almost a year.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I'm just going to read you one more question before we end. Deanna asked in the chat box, how does this work with hormone imbalances and menopausal weight gain?
Go through the script, ask them, what is the meaning they make every time they have a heart flash? If they're, oh my God, that means I'm getting older. That means every time you have a hot flash, anytime you have a hot flash, you'll remember da, da, da. As you do the script, you'll see what the meaning is. Interesting enough, some women have no menopause issues when their hormones change, and some women have a lot. And I think there's a lot of meaning behind it. And so check that out.
Good. All right, thank you so much. Eva's got her contact information there on the screen. She does have some wonderful courses. If anybody's interested, be sure to contact her. And we will be sending out, again, we'll send out the updated handouts with the replay link, which will go out in the next, give me a break here, people, I'm not Nicole, but in the next 48 hours, you will have your replay link and updated handouts. And thank you all so much for coming. We do have a paid webinar coming up on July 10th with Lisa Light. So take a look at the description of that, see if that's something that would be of value. And Eva, thank you so much for your time and talent. We appreciate you.
If anyone wants this PowerPoint, just email at info@mindbasedhealing.org. I know there was a lot here and there's a lot of examples, and I will send it to you.
Great.
Info mindbasedhealing.org. All right.
Thank you, Eva.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.